appointed unless you want unappointed here.
Get it in for Friday.
In-house because he's gonna learn.
They move you over this side?
Where it told me to sit?
Okay.
How you doing?
We'll get you.
Welcome to the, to this side of the work.
A note pad? Oh, an iPad. Oh, just like to keep.
It's
Do you do sound?
Well, somebody, yeah, when it wasn't mine.
You'll return it.
Oh, that's fine.
It's not permanent.
Oh, yes, I understand. So like, but an iPad is the smallest thing that you've got, so I can.
Yeah.
So you guys.
See any of that on
Oh,
this?
that's your parish iPad. Okay. Yes. No, I'd rather keep mine.
Yeah, that's automatic in the charter that Thursday.
I mean, I know you have your assistant.
I'm used to seeing them give a job.
Yeah,
we.
I was a baby mouse. I mean, I'm talking about it was close.
Don't have to.
Good afternoon, and welcome to Caddo Parish Commission's work session. We will have our roll call. Madam Clerk.
Hopkins,
Here.
Johnson,
Present.
Jackson, Young,
Here.
Burrell, Cawthorn, Gage Watts,
Present.
Gage Watts, Talaferro,
Yes, ma'am.
Atkins,
Here.
Chavez,
Here, ma'am.
Lazarus, Epperson.
Present.
We have a quorum. Thank you. At this time, we'll ask you to silence your cell phones, and we'll have our invocation by Commissioner John Paul Young and our Pledge of Allegiance by Commissioner Kenneth Epperson Sr. Please stand.
Please join me in praying. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen.
Amen.
Raise the flag. Ask that all gentlemen please remove their headgear. Ask that all veterans and active military render the standard hand to brow salute. All others, hand across your heart. Repeat the pledge in unison. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Commissioners. Deputy Clerk.
Now we move to agenda additions.
Okay, do we have one or not? Don't have any? No agenda additions? Okay, I have none.
Now we move to citizens' comments.
Okay. I don't have any citizens' cards. Do you have any?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Citizens who wish to address the commission must fill out a comment card and forward to the president or the clerk of the commission. Comments by any citizen will be limited to 3 minutes. Next item, please, ma'am.
Now we move to visitors, 2030 master plan update.
Okay. MPC Director, Mr. Alan Clark is coming.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir.
I'm glad I'm still considered a visitor. That gives me special honor to come before you. I just wanted to very briefly give you an update in reference to the master plan, but in order to update the master plan, I think it's important, this being the first meeting of this commission, that I give you a little background on what has transpired and how do we get to where we are now. And we've done some pretty extensive research and continue to do research in reference to the master plan, the enabling legislation, and ordinances that have been adopted by Caddo Parish for the areas outside the city limits of Shreveport. When we go back to determine when the enabling legislation was done by the Louisiana legislature, that was done July 28, 1954. So we have had the planning limits for the metropolitan planning limits since the year of 1954. The first ordinance that was in Caddo Parish was like it was done in 1954, and the second and most recent, the Chapter 54, was done in 1974. We did the contract for the Great Expectation Master Plan 2030, and the contract was signed April 2009. We started the interviews in May, and the planning area-wide vision forum was conducted August 22nd, 2009. We just have just a couple more things that are real important. In reference to the Unified Development Code, that was a contract that was done with a consulting firm out of Chicago, Camiris consulting firm, and that was done with the signature in July 12, 2013. So from that point, we had the kickoff. The first draft was August 2014. The first public draft was February 2015. We've had joint receptions for the Caddo Parish Commission and the City Council. Though that was held June 29, 2016. And what I'm alluding to is to bring forward to you that throughout this process, and some of you will remember this, throughout this process, it was a joint effort that was being conducted by the city of Shreveport in conjunction with the parish of Caddo. We established the master plan subcommittee. The master plan subcommittee consisted of initially 4 MPC board members. In March of 2009, and this was the committee that was working with verifying and finalizing the master plan and the Unified Development Code. March 2009, that committee was expanded to 2 city council members, 1 mayor's office representative, 2 Caddo Parish Commission members, 1 Caddo Parish administration representative, 2 Caddo Parish school board members, 1 Caddo Parish administration representative, 4 MPC board members, and 3 independent planners. That was an exorbitant committee for the master plan subcommittee. In April 2012, that was reduced because it was totally ineffective and too many people in a committee to do the things that were necessary to complete the process. In 2012, it was redone for 2 MPC board members, 2 city council members, and 2 parish commission members. It got amended again in 2015, and it's in the present state that it is now, is 3 MPC board members, 3 city council members, and 2 parish commission members. There have been some discussions in reference to during the time when the public presentations of the master plan and the UDC was conducted, that it was not conducted in all areas of the parish. I have a listing of the 5 meetings that were held. The first meeting was held Monday, May 18th. It was held at 8877 Jefferson Page Road in the American Road Society complex. The second was held at Susler, the Jesse Stone Lecture Hall, on May 19th. The third was at LSUS on May 20th. The fourth was at the Community Foundation on May 21st. And the last was held at Valencia Park Community Center on May 21st. This is just to provide you with the information necessary to alert and allow the public that this was a very public process. This was a very open process. There were plenty of opportunities for the public to submit information. There were web pages set up. There were Facebook pages set up. There were all kind of opportunities for public participation. We know that over 1,000 people participated in these sessions. We're just at a point now where we are looking at did that effectively solve the problem, or did that effectively provide the information necessary to satisfy the citizens of both the city of Shreveport and the parish of Caddo. In the event that it did not, we are in the present state, we're looking at their concerns about the master plan, the Great Expectations 2030. It was adopted in 2010. There's been amendments made to the master plan, but we have not really done a whole lot in updating the master plan. This is an excellent opportunity and an excellent time for us to relook at the master plan and see if the master plan truly reflects what is happening in the city of Shreveport and in the parish of Caddo. There are some things that happened after the master plan was adopted. The closure of General Motors, the collapse of the Haynesville Shell, not so much collapse, but it was not exactly what we had hoped that it would be. So we're in the process of preparing to go back into the master plan and do some updates to the master plan and evaluate the master plan and its effectiveness in its present state. We're also in the process of looking at the Unified Development Code. The interesting thing was it set out with the master plan to be one code. It was going to be a unified development code that was going to cover the city of Shreveport and those areas outside the city limits of Shreveport and Caddo Parish. That did not effectively work, and therefore we formed two separate unified development codes. They were pretty well, as we review them today, they were pretty well the same, and that's why we were attempting to amend both of them through the Long Range Planning Committee with the parish and with the city council, because we were just sending them both forward. We believe now, based on the information that we received and the input that we're receiving and the constant references that we're getting to our office, we believe now that it may be more appropriate to look more in depth at the Unified Development Code that's governing the parish of Caddo and make some extensive amendments to that present code to better reflect the conditions that are in existence out of the parish. We've started that process. We have gone back and we're reviewing all of the previous ordinances in the parish of Caddo. Some of the suggestions have been to reflect back on Chapter 54, which was the most recent parish ordinance before the Unified Development Code. We're looking at all those ordinances now in preparation to start again trying to engage the citizenry of the parish of Caddo in meetings to discuss with them the provisions of the Unified Development Code, what in the Unified Development Code that is causing all of the concern that is causing, evaluating and seeing how much can be done to compromise on some of the things that are of such concern, and possibly just totally, if not repeal, substantially amend the current ordinance and send it back through the MPC board and forward it back to the Caddo Parish Commission. This is just a real quick gist of what we are in the process of doing. The problem we feel that we did incur was from 2010 to 2020, we have not done a whole lot in reference to thoroughly vetting the master plan and the Unified Development Code. And some of you know we had serious problems with the Unified Development Code in both the city and the parish. And we have amended the current code over 200 times. And the city of Shreveport has adopted 200 of those amendments, but the parish Caddo we're working with, and that was the first indication that maybe this ordinance was not totally adaptable and sufficiently geared toward the parish Caddo. So we will be hopefully making more reports to you. This is an excellent opportunity. And we thank Commissioner Jackson for the legislation of getting the master plan updates. We never had this with the parish of Caddo. We were never really updating you on what we were doing in the last couple of years. But by this being a part of your agenda, every month we will be bringing you updates. During the interim, it's all up to you. During the interim, we possibly would suggest that you allow us to come each one of your work sessions to give you information on what's happening and meetings that we're having with citizens out of the parish and recommendations that we're getting ready to make to the MPC board and later to you. And that's all I have, Madam Chair.
Thank you so much, Mr. Clark. Thank you for that update. I'm sure that the Caddo Alliance for Freedom is happy to hear that you are reviewing and considering repealing the number 54 in the UNC and possibly turning it back to the MPC, which will ultimately come back to the Caddo Parish Commission. I would like to suggest, if we could, in that time, probably to my colleagues, look at placing a moratorium on it until we can go through it and vet it properly to fit those standards of these citizens who are making a cry about the violations, for one, that they're receiving, as well as their rights. So thank you for that update. And I think, yeah, we do. We have Commissioner Burrell on board to speak.
Thank you, Madam President. I just want a point of clarification for me on this master plan. You're saying that the UDC, that as it's established now, is the same for inside the city limits as well as outside?
They're very similar, yes.
They're not the same, but they're
Not
similar.
identical, but they're very similar.
Okay. Does that include the 5-mile radius?
And that's a misnomer because the planning limits we found, and everyone just always considered 5 mile, meaning that there was a circle drawn from the city limits of Shreveport out 5 miles. But the planning limits are not there up to 5 miles. So in some places they're like 2 miles, other places they're 3 miles, and other places they're 5 miles. Just for clarity's sake.
Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Stephen Jackson.
Thank you, Mr. Clark, for coming down for your monthly presentation. And again, thank you and your staff for your work. I just want to be clear, and I don't know if I missed this, but the conversation, and it's Mr. McCormick, Danny McCormick here. I know he's been sworn in. There was some conversation about the 5 mile issue, and a couple weeks ago they asked us to repeal the 5 mile limit. However, I don't believe, and I've consulted with our legal, is that that's not anything that we can do. The 5 mile radius is actually established by state statute.
It is. I think that, and we've had that conversation, that you possibly could determine, you could reduce the radius around the city.
But that is not something that we set in statute. That's something that's set in Baton Rouge. Is that correct, or is that the question?
That's correct.
Okay. So, for Mr. McCormick, and I see the person who represents the alliance is here. I know Mr. McCormick has rallied the group, but do understand he now has a great obligation. If you all don't want to be under the 5 mile radius, they don't need to come down here and jump on the parish commission or jump on Mr. Clark and the MPC board. That's a conversation they need to sit down with Mr. McCormick and have a conversation with Mr. McCormick, because there's no act that we can take to either remove the 5 mile radius or reduce the 5 mile radius. We have to follow what the law says. So I just want that to be noted and stated, that we have no jurisdiction or the ability to change that. It's easy for folks to jump up and down about things, but leaders lead. And if, you know, Mr. McCormick is going to be part of that group, hopefully I believe the filing deadline for local legislation is February 14th or something like that. I know it's coming up next month, so if he's going to file him a bill, hopefully he will consult with Shreveport and Caddo Parish before he files his bill, because as I appreciated, the history that Henry Bernstein provided was that it was actually the folks in the rural areas who came to the parish and the city and said they wanted that to be extended because they saw the growth that was coming because of I-49. And this was years ago, long before I was even born. They requested that 5-mile radius be there. So I think we have an open mind about how that can go, but it's not anything that we can control here at the local level. So again, thank you, Mr. Clark, for your patience, and thank you for also your attention to the issue over on with the guy over here off of not Marshall, Fairfield. I appreciate your due diligence on that as well, so thank you.
Could I just say just one more thing, Madam Chair?
Yes, sir. Go ahead. You have the floor.
We feel very strongly that this legislation has been in place since 1954. It has served the city of Shreveport and Caddo Parish well. I understand, and the staff of the MPC and the board of MPC understands that some citations caused some frustrations and possibly led us to this point. It's just very important that we had to make ourselves familiar with the parish again. We had not done a whole lot of work outside the city limits. We were not real aware of what the parish looked like. So if you're not out there on a daily basis looking at the parish, you cannot make recommendations for changes that need to be made to the parish zoning code. And that's why basically, for the most part, these were just amendments that were just being set up from both the city ordinance and the parish ordinance. We have a total different perspective of what it looks like out in the parish. Now, we are verifying the zoning classifications out in the parish. The 90% of the areas that are out in the parish are zoned residential agriculture, with a small portion zoned residential estate, 12,000 square feet, and lot sizes up to. So we are able to look at that and make some recommendations on requirements which are not anything like the stringent requirements that are inside the city limits of Shreveport. Make some recommendations for what an ordinance should look like with residential agricultural property outside the city limits of Shreveport. So I don't know what the outcome will be with the Caddo Alliance for Freedom. We are open to meeting with them. We are open to explaining all of these things to them. We're open to listening to all of their recommendations and discussing those recommendations. And I think that there is a common area that we can both get to if we ever get to a point where we're calm and fixed on making things better for the parish of Caddo.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Jackson, were you done?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. Madam Clerk, if you would reset the time for Commissioner Lyndon B. Jackson was speaking. So I don't know how he's back on the board and his name is up there at the same time. So it says Johnson, so I don't know what's going on, but.
I can't reset it up there, but I'll set the timer.
Okay. Thank you. Commissioner Lyndon B. Johnson.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment. I think what Commissioner Burrell was kind of asking about on the one about recreational vehicles. That seemed to be the most one that most people have been complaining about, of those recreational vehicles being parked on the side or in front of a home outside the city limits. Well, that same standard also fits for inside the city limits. So even if we address it outside the city limits, you will still have that issue of being called inside the city limits because the city council is supporting putting it inside the city limits. So even though some of us the fight will fall off, you still will have a fight because you're gonna have some citizens inside the city limits because they haven't really caught on to this yet. And when they do catch on to it, then they're gonna be filling chambers as well. Because if you ride through Shreveport, you got recreational vehicles, and when we talk about that, we're talking about boats, we're talking about trailers, we're talking about recreational motorcycles, recreational cars, jet skis, anything like that. So if that's if you can stand in the street and look at that house and see that, then they're in violation, the way that it's written now. So that's gonna be an issue for commissioners who have inside the city limits. I'll be still fighting too, because in some of my area inside the city limits, I can ride down the road and see that. So that's something else we're gonna have to be discussing, even outside and inside the city limits. So this point of reference to all of the new commissioners that this is still an issue, whether it goes away outside the city limits, it's gonna be an issue inside the city limits. Yes, sir. Mr. Clark.
Just as a point of clarification, when we removed enforcement as violations for those particular violations in the parish of Caddo, we also suspended actions in the city of Shreveport. We're going to review it all and make some recommendations for how we're going to address RVs, boat trailers, and et cetera in both the parish and the city.
So the city council is also discussing?
City council has agreed to that,
Okay.
and they've enacted that legislation.
All right, so now you need to bend their ears as well. Thank you.
Is that all violations, or that's just
That's
some?
just that violation, because
that
when
on
the
recreational
parish of Caddo, when the Caddo Commission asked us to suspend enforcement with your resolution, suspend enforcement of those violations, we just did it in the city also, so that we could study it and make sure that we came up with something that was consistent and agreeable with both the city and the parish.
All right, thank you, Mr.
That's
Cole.
more discussion for long-range planning.
Thank
We're
you.
done. Thank
Yes.
you.
Mhm.
Commissioner Burrell?
Thank you, Madam President. Just as another point that was mentioned concerning the 5-mile radius being in state statute, having been in the state, I want us to caution us about dealing with that 5-mile radius, because a lot of testimony and probably research has gone into that. So it's not something you just arbitrarily take off the table. So that's going to have to be reviewed closely before you start dealing with that 5-mile radius.
Thank you, Commissioner. Vice President Chavez?
Thank you, Madam President. I just wanted to get some clarification from Attorney Frazier. On the 5 miles, I agree with Commissioner Jackson that is state set. However, as I understood it, we, the commission, can grant the MPC the jurisdiction up to the 5th mile. However, we could also reduce that. So if we deemed they can have jurisdiction within, let's just say, for instance, 1 mile, then that falls upon us. Is this true?
Commissioner, I have not looked at it. My recollection is that that you cannot do it unless the 5 miles is set by state statute, and that you cannot do it unless you get a change to that state statute. Even if that is not the case, it would still have to come from the MPC before you all could act on it. But if you give me a minute, I'll verify.
Sure. Thank you, Attorney Frazier. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Commissioner Todd Hopkins?
Madam President, legal has answered my question.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Commissioner Ken Epperson?
Mr. Clark, the town of Greenwood, you know, they have a mayor and alderman. governmental entity, does this affect them also?
Director Clark, I suggest you just have a seat on the front row. Are you just trying to get some extra
I'm
steps
trying to
in?
exercise more
Yes.
this year, Madam Chair, and you can tell I need to. In the city limits of Blanchard and the city limits of Greenwood, they're not affected by anything that the MPC has jurisdiction of. Only the unincorporated areas.
Thank you, sir.
All
That's
right.
all.
Thank you, sir.
My question is for Mr.
Commissioner
Clark.
John Atkins, all right.
Thank you, Madam. I was trying to save you.
Thank you, sir.
Hi, Mr. Clark. There's been some overlapping conversation here. You made reference earlier to the fact that the 5 mile rate, I'm not sure the proper term, but the area of influence of the MPC, the jurisdiction of the MPC. You made reference to the fact that in some places it extends to 5 miles and in some places it doesn't. I was studying the Unified Development Code maps this week, and I see down in southeast of Shreveport, it looks like the reach is much tighter. So what, does it go 5 miles in southeast Shreveport, or does it just go to y'all's jurisdictional map, what's shown on the jurisdictional map?
The way the legislation was written, that the MPC shall have jurisdiction up to 5 miles.
So you can restrict it within that
So
area.
in certain areas, a lot of persons felt that every time the city of Shreveport annexed property into the city limits, that the MPC jurisdiction expanded the additional distance from where the annexation had occurred. That was not accurate. It's a perceived 5 miles, but it's really not 5 miles outside the city limits.
So from your perspective, your boundary limit is that limit defined by the UDC map that
Right.
you distributed to us 4 years ago?
Right.
Thank you.
And I think it's the same map. We have a new map, but that's why I made the observation that in certain instances in the South Shreveport it goes 5 miles and north 5 miles and past Greenwood 5 miles, but basically it's just 3 miles and 1 mile
In
from
certain
the
parts
maps.
of Okay, thank you, Mr. Clark. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Clark.
You sure you want me to leave, Madam Chair?
I am. We appreciate your service. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Next item, Madam Clerk.
Now we move to reports, administrator report.
Okay.
Good afternoon, President Gage Watts,
Good
Commissioners.
afternoon, sir.
Commissioners, you should find at your station a worksheet for legislative priorities for the year 2020. If you'd be kind enough to fill that out, we'll go ahead and compile a list and get it back to you for review. But every year, we submit a list from the Parish of Caddo, from the Parish Care Commission, what we would like to see done in the legislature term coming up. Also, you should find at your stations the December financial income statement. Should be at your station. And also, along with that, an adopted budget for 2020 should be at your station. And I'd like to introduce at this time, we had a recent promotion, Mr. Maurice Carson. Maurice, will you stand up, please? Mr. Maurice replaced Mr. Perry Johnson as Assistant Director of Facilities and Maintenance, who retired on December 20th. And Mr. Maurice was selected and started his position on January 19th. So,
Welcome. Congratulations.
he was the maintenance manager at the Caddo Correction Center.
Okay.
So, barring anything else, that concludes my report for today.
Thank you, Dr. Wilson, and congratulations, Mr. Morris. I know that you are aware of the shoes that you have to fill, but just be you. I'm sure that you're going to do a great job. We will certainly miss our friend on facilities and maintenance for such a long time, such a dear friend who always did due diligence. He will be missed from Caddo Parish.
That's
Thank
correct,
you.
ma'am. You're welcome.
Next item, please.
Commission remarks.
No commission, okay, there we go. Commissioner John Atkins.
Thank you, Madam President. I just wanted to welcome one of our candidates for the Industrial Development Board, William Bradford. He's here in the audience today, so thank you for coming, William. And I think I may have seen Marvin Muhammad in here earlier. Is he still here? So thank you all for coming today. Do we have any other IDB candidates here today? Okay, thank you very much, Madam President.
Thank you, Commissioner Atkins. Commissioner Lyndon B. Johnson.
Yes, Dr. Wilson, I got a new project for facilities and maintenance. The parking lot arm on the McNeil side, it doesn't work all the time, so there's something wrong with it.
The gates?
The gate, the arm, yeah.
Okay.
It won't come up, and sometimes you can push the button, be right beside it, and it still won't come up.
Okay.
And then if you gently push the arm a little bit, it'll come up. So I don't know if the motor's getting weak or something is wrong.
We'll check it out.
Thank you. That's all I have, Madam President.
Thank you, Commissioner Lyndon B. Johnson. See no other speakers in the queue? To our new commissioners, at this time, if you would like to, thank you. I just wanted to reiterate the communiques, reports, and any other items related to work session agenda. You can speak at this time. Commissioner Roy Burrell.
I just wanted to ask, how does it operate? It doesn't operate by the little badge, it operates with a remote?
It's a clicker.
Okay, that's why I couldn't get in. Thank you, Madam President.
You're
Go
welcome.
make
I'm
sure
sure
everybody
they'll
get a
have
clicker.
your clicker
You
ready
should
for
get a
you
clicker
this
today.
week.
Yes, sir. We'll make sure you have one, sir.
Thank you, Commissioner Burrell. See no other commissioners on the board?
Now we move to President's report.
Okay, thank you. Happy Monday, everyone. On yesterday, many of us paused to pay homage to the life and legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. with a day of service or reflecting on the vision he shared with the world through the famous I Have a Dream speech. There were parades of celebration and dancing in hopes to bring our communities together for a common goal of peace, equality, and justice. As I sat through a Senator Carter's speech about how far we've come, or how we really have not come that far, I was challenged to think about the division as a human race, political subdivision, or even our economic status has often clouded our responses, beliefs, and unfortunately, our leadership. Today is not a holiday, but today is another gift. It's another opportunity for us to evaluate ourselves. Are we really doing what's right, or are we using our positions to be a crosswalk to the next level? Have our core values kicked us to remind us the morals our grandmothers taught us? Or are we unifying, or are we dividing? Let us not just speak peace when it's popular, but practice it by ensuring there are safer streets in our parish, which is in our city. Let's not just praise the children who are overcoming the obstacles of life publicly, but let's fight for stricter gun laws and provide a better quality of life for them through additional funding for their education, instead of lobbying to build more prisons for them. Let us not have a humble tongue about the man or woman who sleeps on the courthouse cold grounds because they have no home, but let's put capital to their needs and provide a homeless shelter for them to live in until their conditions improve. There are still mothers who replay their last moments with their child because they lost them in a traffic stop, and fathers who replay the gavel slam at their child they lost in a courtroom. Not to mention, far too many children are left in cages at borders, and the women who work just as hard as men, but are only receiving half of their pay. We are still fighting for our rights to vote, fighting to stop purging voter rolls, and ultimately fighting for those who are trying to block early voting locations. We stand on broad shoulders, and I am proud of where we are and where we have come from. Bold enough to say it and ambitious enough to fight for where I believe all people should thrive and not merely survive, and that we all deserve better. Each of us as servants have pledged our life to serve all mankind, and we should do it wholehearted because it's the right thing to do. For if we want to be great, Dr. King said that greatness is determined by service. And as I close with another quote of Dr. King's, life's most persistent and urgent question is, what are you doing for others? This will conclude my president's report. Thank you.
Now we move to old business, special resolution of recognition to Louder Baking Company.
Motion to move to Thursday?
Second was moved by Vice President Chavez, second by the chair. Would you like to speak on your motion?
Hopefully when they come, they bring us king cake, but we'll see. So we're looking forward to seeing them on Thursday.
As long as it's not an ethic
It's
violation.
less than
They have
$65
to-
a cake.
And they have to sit in here while we eat it too.
I think they don't mind that at all.
All right.
That's true.
I see no further discussion. Please vote.
I'm just letting you know. They leave, you gotta stop eating.
And that passes 12-0. Next item, please.
Now we move to new business, authorized resolution number 6 of 2020, resolution to relocate polling place for precinct numbers 88, 114, 133, and 163 from Calvary United Pentecostal Church on Woolworth Road in Shreveport to Walnut Hill Elementary Middle School on Woolworth Road in Shreveport.
Move for action for Thursday.
Second. That was moved by Commissioner Ken Epperson, and that was seconded by Commissioner Stephen Jackson. Commissioner Epperson, would you like to speak on your motion?
Calvary no longer wanted to participate, and we do have the Walnut Hill School, which everyone think is a lot better place, better parking, public venue, plus I don't think we have to pay any lease.
Okay. Thank you, sir. See no further discussion? Please vote. That passes 12-0. Next item, please.
Authorized resolution number 7 of 2020, a resolution to recognize the 70th anniversary of Booker T. Washington High School.
Second Thursday.
Okay, that was moved by Commissioner Stephen Jackson, and that was seconded by Commissioner Lynn Carthorne. Commissioner Jackson, would you like to speak on your motion?
No, they may come down and we may suspend the rules and present this on Thursday, but I'll let you know
Okay.
enough time. Thank you. But there is a program, and I'll speak to it at announcements as well.
Okay. I see no further discussion. Please vote.
Commissioner Atkins?
I'll try again. There we go.
Thank you.
Okay, and that passes 12-0.
Request LADOTD to perform a market study at the intersection of LA1 North and MLK for a left turn going north.
Move to Thursday.
Second.
Okay, that was moved by Commissioner Stephen Jackson, second by Commissioner Lyndon B. Johnson. Commissioner Jackson?
Yes, I have an amendment. I would like to amend this to read, perform a traffic study and not a market study, so more technical in nature. So, there's a second for that.
Second.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I have a point of clarification, but only if I can ask the question before I make the motion. I want to know if it would be most economical feasible if I wanted to add a study for another intersection in this as well? To do them both at the same time, Dr. Wilson?
Yes, ma'am, I don't see why not. This is a state request.
Right.
The road in question is a
Mine would
parish
be
road,
too.
state road, ma'am?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am. Ms.
Okay, I'll come back to it. Thank you. Commissioner Lyndon B. Johnson.
I was on board.
I just wanted to
Oh,
be
you-
added
I
to
didn't see
the
you. You're not on there.
legislation since
Put it in.
that turn is actually in District 2.
Okay. I'm sorry, I didn't hear what you said. Would you restate your
Wanted to
point?
be added to the legislation since that turn is in District 2.
Okay.
Going into District 3.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, did you hear that?
I got it.
Thank you. That's it, Commissioner Johnson?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Commissioner Jackson?
Yes, I actually, Attorney Frazier, I may postpone on Thursday, because I was actually wanting, we can't attach any, I wanted some whereas statements on this.
You can amend it on Thursday if you want to, or you can, pull it and place it on another agenda and amend it at that time.
At that time. But we can add some statements and be it therefore resolves.
Yes,
This is-
you can add to this.
It's not a
I mean,
resolution.
well, wait a minute.
Because
It's
I
not a
actually want a
resolution.
resolution. is
Oh,
what
well,
I want.
you would need to add that to an
Okay.
agenda to introduce it.
Okay, and I recall at one point, somebody indicating that there was a study that they had obtained that indicated, was that available for me to view at some point, or?
Oh, this intersection?
Right, I remember,
City
City
engineer.
conducted a study at the
Okay.
application.
and they were saying that there had been no reports of traffic incidents in the last year or so, or recent, when I witnessed one myself. couple of days before Thanksgiving. So if I could get access, or if I could,
You want us to send you a copy of that?
Yes.
Well, actually, we're still trying to get it. We haven't gotten it yet, right? Come on up, Tim.
I hope I wasn't
We
inconvenienced.
did request it. I don't know if we got it yet.
Oh, okay, because
Yeah.
I had got it from Parish staff, and it had,
We asked for
the way I was hearing it was if somebody had it or had seen it, and I asked to see it as well.
We sent a request to DOTD, and then DOTD informed us it is under DOTD, but the city of Shreveport has a joint maintenance agreement, so the request would really need to go to the city of Shreveport since they maintain that light. And that's per DOTD. And
So-
we did get a informal traffic study back from the traffic engineer from the city of Shreveport. So, I mean, it was just an email, 3 or 4 paragraphs, so that we can get you.
I would like
So,
to see
yeah.
whatever it is.
I mean, I can get it to you today. I have
Yes, sir.
so.
And you can just print it out and
Yeah.
stick it in my box if you
I'll do that.
don't get
But
it
the
to me.
request needs to go to the city of Shreveport.
So,
Thank you, Mr. Rubin.
hold on, Tim, before you leave. So this request needs to go to the city of Shreveport?
Yes, per DOTD. So, and I'll give you that documentation too.
Okay, appreciate it. Thank you, Tim, for clarification. That's it for me, at least for now.
Okay, thank you. Vice President Chavez.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Commissioner Jackson, for bringing this. I know with respect to his individually, a lot of other commissioners may want to stack other roads, myself included, but I'll wait because I don't want to muddy the waters with his. I'd like Commissioner Jackson's to fly through. But on that same thought, if we ask DOTD or if we ask for a market study or a traffic study, is it going to return with a bill from the state?
It should.
We can request those at no cost to the parish?
Yes, sir, that area you're thinking about professional drive is in the
You know
city.
exactly what I'm thinking
Yes,
about.
sir, I am. It's probably, it's in the city.
Yes, sir.
We can ask, and hopefully we won't get a bill. I
Okay.
don't think we will get one. We can ask them if they did a study in that location as well.
Okay. Again, I didn't want to intervene with his getting, but mine was coming next week. So, thank you, Chair. Thank you, Commissioner Jackson.
Thank you, Vice President Chavez. Commissioner Lyndon B. Johnson.
Thank you, Madam President. So I want to ask this question. Regardless of the study, if we wanted to go in and put a turn signal there, then we could buy the signal and talk with the city and put it in.
As long as the state concurs to state roads,
Right.
we can't do nothing without their permission.
Okay. But evidently, the city is maintaining the light.
Yeah, so they have an endeavor agreement between them two, but certainly the road itself still have to get the concurrence of the state to do anything with it.
Right. But if we get there, okay, then we got to go and talk to the city and hope that the city would be okay with us doing it, which they would probably say, well, you pay for it 100% to get it done.
I'm quite sure they wouldn't balk at that.
Right. Okay. All right. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome, sir.
Commissioner Stephen Jackson.
Tim. So, are you suggesting, or are you, and correct me if I'm wrong, are you saying that the city would approve the
Yeah,
turn signal?
according to
or-
DOTD, that all requests need to go to the city of Shreveport since they're actually maintaining that intersection for DOTD.
But who would approve?
I mean, according to DOTD, the city of Shreveport, that's who they said to send the approval to Mike Erlin, the traffic engineer. And I sent him something and he sent me something back, but I can get it to you.
But I'm asking specifically, who would approve the turn
I would
signal?
say the city of Shreveport.
City of Shreveport,
Yes.
at least, okay. Okay, that's what I was trying to get to.
Yeah.
That's it, thank you, appreciate it.
Hey, Tim. 'Cause I think Commissioner Johnson was talking about a turn lane.
Let's say turn signal.
Turn signal.
It's already
Yes.
a lane there.
It's a lane there,
Okay.
yeah.
The lane is already there.
It's
just a
the
turn
same
signal.
scenario, right?
It's the same corner.
It's-
We
yeah, we're
talking-
talking about the same one.
location.
We talking the same light.
Right. Okay.
I'm just want to know who gonna approve it.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, I would say the city of Shreveport.
So why we waste on time on the state?
I don't know.
Well, it's a state highway.
Yeah, it is.
Yes, state highway.
Yeah, but the lane is already there, the light is already, all we doing is adding a signal. So
Right, well,
the timing is done by the city, the engineering is done by the city, so, and the state has told you to contact the city about anything about this particular corner.
Correct.
So to me, and then when they came down, when I talked about this months ago, the city engineer came down and basically said that they weren't gonna do it because, one, they didn't want to spend the money, and two, he said that they didn't have any depths. They had some T-bones, but no depths.
Right.
And I then was getting kind of frustrated because you're gonna base putting a turn signal because on not having depths, but there's still accidents, and that's not right to me.
Yeah, I'll get y'all what he responded, and then we can get something a little more formal.
Okay.
All right. Yeah, I still have the floor. I'll make an amendment on Thursday to change this from state to city. I was unaware that the city was managing the light. I can tell you about 15 years ago, maybe more. I know when Keith Hightower attempted to conduct the traffic study, turn signal on Uri Drive, I think Uri and Stoner, they attempted to do some traffic studies, and the state came and picked it up. And I think the city even went out and put a turn signal, and the state went and took it down. So they were very particular about what goes on state highways. If you're telling me now that they have an agreement, if you're telling me that they have an agreement at this point about that, it may be Uri and Stoner or Uri and Olive, one or the other. But it's I know it was one of those two areas. But if you're telling me now, because Uri Drive basically is Highway 1 as well, so same place, just different names on different intersections of it. So we'll figure it out, and if we need to request to the city, we can request to the city. I appreciate you on that, Tim. Thank you. That's it for me, Madam President.
Attorney Frazier.
I just wanted to point out that who can actually enter into an agreement with the parish to put a light there versus who can do a traffic study is probably going to be different. I haven't looked at any agreements or any written agreements between the state and the city, and you can believe me that if something happens at that intersection, the state is getting sued as well as the city. And so they're not probably going to delegate their liability. And so all of that is something that needs to be looked at when you're determining who actually makes the approval or who would actually need to contract with the parish in order to get that done. So it's two separate issues that need to be addressed.
That's it, Attorney Frazier? Thank
That's
you.
it.
Okay, see no further discussion. Please vote. That passes 12-0. Next item.
Authorize appointment of Miss Laura Newbert to the Metropolitan Planning Commission, term to expire January 1, 2026.
So moved to Thursday.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Vice President Chavez and second by Commissioner John Atkins. I have a substitute motion to appoint Lasagna D. Moore to the Metropolitan Planning Commission. And I have left her resume at each one of your stations.
Second.
And that was second by Commissioner Lyndon B. Johnson. Vice President Chavez.
Sure. Want to speak on my motion. The lady that I have before you, sorry, my computer's now stuck, but she was outside of the planning period. I know the Caddo Alliance was very adamant about having no representation on the MPC and going over the board appointments. This is true. All of the MPC board members are within the city, and I don't know if Ms. Moore is as well. I hope she's not, and I'll definitely consider her as well if she's not in. But I know the parish citizens are requesting that they have representation because right now, with the UDC and everything that's going on, they have no representation. And if we put somebody that can represent them from outside the parish, then their voice will be heard. Looking over the resume of the lady Laura that submitted, very, very highly qualified in zoning, and I think everything that would go into play with an MPC board member. So I appreciate you guys' consideration. I don't personally know her. However, I have met her coming to these meetings. And I talked to a lot of other people outside the planning period, and they said that they like her a lot, and this is their choice of who they would like to represent them. So that's them speaking. Like, again, I personally don't know her, so thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Vice President Chavez. Commissioner Jackson, you in the queue?
Yes, thank you, Madam President. I want to support introduction at this time, but on Thursday, I'm probably going to make a motion that we postpone and wait until we can open this up for applicants to be able to apply. For 2 months now, we've sat around and had conversations about an industrial development board that has not met in, I believe, 2 years. And based on the premise of, one, we didn't have a resume. I see we have resumes in, but then there was a premise that individuals didn't have an opportunity to apply. When I know that we have done less advertising for all other positions. So I'm going to continue to preach consistency. If we're going to do one thing for one board or person, we should do it across the board. And so this particular appointment kind of came out of nowhere on Friday. I'm glad to see that we at least have another applicant here. But again, this IDB board, this second IDB, Mr. Decay's appointment has been sort of stacked up here based off the premise that we need to have it open and advertised for everybody to be able to apply. So I would like to see the same logic and methodology followed for the MPC. Be consistent in all things that we do. So I will support at this time trying to make an introduction or adding something, but I will ask that we postpone final adoption, or at least the removal or the selection on Thursday, until we give more people an opportunity to be able to put in for this. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Jackson. Attorney Frazier.
I just wanted to point out to you all that the way you've set up your amendments, you have an either-or proposition as to what you're going to move to Thursday. If you wanted to consider both candidates on Thursday, you've got one more amendment left.
Thank you. Commissioner Todd Hopkins.
Madam President, would you let us bring to us on Thursday whether this individual lives in the planning area or the city limits?
Both. This is actually my constituent, and she does live here in Caddo Parish.
Does she live in the planning area outside the city limits?
That part I need to check.
That's what I'd like to know, please.
Okay, I'll ask. That's it, Commissioner Hopkins?
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Burrell?
Thank you, Madam President. Just a point of clarification. I heard Commissioner Chavez say that his appointment was moved to Thursday, and then did I understand you to come back and say that you did a substitute motion?
No, sir. He made a motion to move this agenda item to Thursday.
Okay.
And I made a substitute motion to add this individual, Ms. LaSanya D. Moore, as
For
well.
Thursday.
Yes, for Thursday, to consider her for this appointment as well.
All right, thank you, Madam
You're
President.
welcome.
Clarification.
Point of clarification, Madam President?
Yes.
So are you moving to add your person to the original motion?
Yes.
Okay, because you said substitute her as opposed, so that's
No,
the point I was
I'm
making.
sorry. I said substitute motion to add her.
Add her, okay,
Yes.
thank you.
That was my concern, Madam President, because both of them didn't
Yes.
coincide. Thank you.
You're welcome. And I'm sure that's what Commissioner Lyndon B. Justin is on the board.
Yes, Madam President, I was on the board to clear up that motion, but you did that already. But what I will like to speak to is, I also was approached about how we do appointments to particular boards And some people were saying that we need to have an application process. And I told them I totally disagree. I said, when you look at the mayor has appointments. There's no application process. There's other governing bodies that have appointments. They don't do an application process. It's up to us to vet that person to see if that's the one we want to have. Now, whether you accept the resume and ask them to come, and you might ask a couple of questions during the meeting, that's your vetting. If you want to do it that way, you read the resume. If you don't like the resume, don't like what it says, don't vote for them. But I don't think that we should open it up and fill out this application and just going too far, because the people elected us to be the voice for their particular area. And so we have to take some responsibility. And if we drop the ball on that, then we drop the ball, shame on us. But to go through a process of all of that, I just think that's going way too far. You know, we've already had the premise in the past of parish-wide appointments that will have resumes, that way everybody can look at it and they'll feel comfortable voting for that person. And if it was in the district, then basically the person that was bringing it to the floor had already done the research and vetting the person in that district, because it's going to be a reflection upon them in that district. So that's why it was set up that way, and that's what we've been doing since I've been down here. And I'm quite sure it's been going on far longer than that, if I ask Commissioner Everson about that, because that's how, they told me it was. So I just think that the application process is going too far with this a parish appointment. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Commissioner Lyndon B. Johnson. Attorney Frazier?
You've already taken care of me.
Thank you. Commissioner Lynn Carthorne?
Yeah, thank you, Madam President. I think my question has already been answered, but just as a point of clarification, on Thursday, we will be voting on you and Commissioner Chavez's recommendations to the MPC.
Yes, sir.
All right, thanks.
Yes. Okay. Commissioner Burrell, second time around?
Madam President, as a point of clarification for me, are these appointments all at-large appointments? They're
Yes.
not by district?
No.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, I see no other discussion. Please vote.
Clarification, Madam President, we're voting on your substitute motion?
As amended. Okay, and that passes 12-0.
Now
All
I
right,
move
Madam
to
Clerk.
authorize removal of Mr. Lemar Flukers from the Industrial Development Board. Term expires August 22nd, 2025.
I move that we remove this item from the agenda.
Second.
Okay, Commissioner Jackson, would you like to, it was moved by Commissioner Stephen Jackson, that was seconded by Commissioner Lyndon B. Johnson. Commissioner Jackson, would you like to speak on your motion?
Yes, there's no need for this item. Everyone should have a copy of Mr. Fluker's letter, and there should be a non-redacted copy with Ms. Nations if you want to reach out to Mr. Fluker himself. So, thank you.
Okay. I see no other discussion. Please vote. Okay, that passes 12-0. Next item.
Authorize appointment of Mr. Marvin Muhammad to fill the unexpired term of Mr. Lemar Flukers, term to expire August 22nd, 2025.
Move to Thursday.
Second.
Okay, that was moved by Commissioner Stephen Jackson, and that was seconded by Commissioner Lyndon B. Johnson. Commissioner Stephen Jackson, would you like to speak on your motion? Okay. See no other discussion? Please. All right. I see Commissioner Jim Talaferro.
Thank you, Madam President. I'm very pleased at the number of applicants that have chosen to come forward and support and serve the citizens of Caddo and the Caddo Parish Commission. And therefore, I'd like to make a substantive motion to consider all the nominees for both positions.
Second.
So we have a better pool.
Okay. That was moved by Commissioner Jim Talaferro and second by Vice President Chavez. Gotta get used to saying Commissioner Jim Talaferro. All right. Commissioner Jackson.
Yes. I specifically put this on here. Nobody was worried about Mr. Lemar Flukers. I was the one that had to do the legwork to get his letter, resignation letter in. Had y'all not gotten a resignation letter, some of you wouldn't have even wanted to take this issue up. And so I would ask that we keep the two separate and apart, for the simple fact that that's how this body wanted to be done. Now all of a sudden that I've gone out, got the letter of resignation, you want to lump them all in as one? I don't think that's right. I don't think that's fair. It shows a hidden motive that has been in play since day one. Be consistent about what you're doing. Mr. Marvin Muhammad has waited his opportunity to serve. Mr. Lemar Flukers has rightfully, like I said, everybody said we needed a resume. He got your resume. Everybody said, I need a letter of resignation from Mr. Lemar Flukers. Mr. Lemar Flukers got your letter of resignation. Now all of a sudden, there's an interest in Mr. Lemar Flukers' position. Something is not right. There's an unspoken motive, ulterior motive here. Is it because his last name is Muhammad? What is it? We have no reason to combine these appointments, and I would ask us that we move these appointments separate and go to the next one and move the individuals who have expressed the interest separately. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Commissioner Stephen Jackson. Vice President Chavez.
Thank you, Madam President. I just wanted to clear up, first off, thank you for coming down here, Mr. Muhammad. I didn't want this to negatively affect you or look like it is. There wasn't a diabolical plan here. Commissioner Talaferro is new on the board. He simply asked, hey, I think it would be fair if, since there's two open positions, if we looked at everybody for those two positions, what should I do? So I told him all you got to do is make a substitute motion on the agenda to say I would like all these guys put together, which is why I'm seconding the motion, which does not mean I agree with it. However, when you second a motion, you allow the board to discuss it. So that's merely what we're doing. We're commissioners. We can discuss stuff. Commissioner Talaferro is new on the board, and he had a question, and it was a valuable point, is why don't we consider all of them at once, and that's what he wanted to do. Him being a new commissioner, I just advised him this is how you do it. So that's what he's doing. Whether or not you guys would like to vote on that, vote on them independently, I just wanted to clear that up. There's no diabolical plan going on here. Thank you for coming here again. I know you'll be here Thursday as well. You're a hard worker. I appreciate you. That's all, guys. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Vice President Chavez. Commissioner Roy Burrell.
Thank you, Madam President. I guess I need a point of clarification. Do we need to go back and do a substitute motion to put it back where it was? Or, I'm sorry?
No, sir, we don't. If you are not in favor of Commissioner Talaferro's motion, you vote your pleasure.
You vote no.
Yes or no? Okay. Well, another point too. I was here when you all discussed it last time, sitting in the audience, and I did have some concerns personally when Mr. Muhammad's name came up. There seemed to be some unrest there, and if it is, this would be a great time to speak on it to whomever disagree, because that wasn't a point. Just being a citizen sitting out there prior to the time that I've taken this office, Madam Chair.
Okay. Commissioner Stephen Jackson.
Yes, I just want to know why is there all of a sudden an interest in Mr. Fluker's position today? There was no interest in Mr. Fluker's position 2 weeks ago. Why is there an interest today? If that was the case, why didn't Mr. Talaferro, you made the motion, why didn't you go get the letter of resignation?
Commissioner Jackson, we will keep our comments not directed at a commissioner.
Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Commissioner Jackson. Commissioner Ken Epperson.
Call for a question on the
Second.
motion.
Second.
Okay, the question has been called by Commissioner Ken Everson, and that was seconded by Commissioner John Atkins.
Madam Chair,
At this time, we're voting on calling on the question.
clarification. How are we voting?
This, what we're voting on right now is calling for the question that is to cease all discussion on this matter. Understand? Okay.
Commissioner Young?
It's,
Sometimes you gotta hit it once or twice. I gotta get you a pencil like mine down there. Yes. Okay, and the question has been called. Now, at this time, we are voting on the substitute motion, which was from, if you would, Madam Clerk, from Commissioner Jim Talaferro.
Commissioner Jim Talaferro, seconded by Commissioner Chavez, to consider all nominees for both vacancies for the Industrial Development Board.
Okay. And we're voting on substitute motion. Okay, and that fails for 8. Now, at this time, we are voting on the original motion, which is to move to Thursday to authorize the appointment of Marvin Muhammad to fill the unexpired term of Lamar Flukers. Okay, and that passes 12-0. Next item.
Authorize appointment to fill the expired term of Mr. Roger
Move to
Decay.
advance.
Second.
Okay, that was moved by Commissioner John Atkins, and that was seconded by Commissioner Lyndon B. Johnson. Commissioner Atkins, would you like to speak on your motion?
We have 4 fine candidates here, and we have a clear opening on the Industrial Development Board. I propose that we go ahead and vote on these candidates on Thursday.
Okay. Vice President Chavez?
Thank you, Chair. I would like to make a substitute motion to add the name William L. McCullen, who was sent to me Friday night after the agenda. I don't know William, however, I've received this resume, and I just think, obviously, we're up here toting every person that wants to have a seat at the table to at least be considered for an appointment. I'd like to follow suit with that. It seems like that's what we want to do. This resume looks really good. Again, I don't know this man, William L. McCullen, but I would like to add him to be considered for Thursday, if I could get a second.
Second.
That was seconded by Commissioner Roy Burrell.
Thank you, Commissioner.
That concludes all your remarks, Vice President Chavez?
That's it. Thank you,
Okay.
President.
Commissioner Stephen Jackson?
I'm gonna wait until after commentary.
Okay. Commissioner John Atkins?
Thank you, Madam President. I do know Mr. McCollum, he's a fine man. However, I don't think it's appropriate for us to add people on the agenda after the agenda has already been completed and gone out. So for that reason, I will not be voting to add him to the agenda. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner John Paul Young?
thank you, Madam President. My name is next to Mr. Demetrius' Norman name on this list, and I don't see that he has submitted a resume, and so I think it would be better if we removed him from consideration.
Okay. So if you would
So
just get
should
back
I
on the
move to do
board.
that, or?
Yeah. So when you get ready to make your motion, you can get back on the board and state your motion first before you start speaking, and then you can explain your motion once you get your second.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
You gonna give him a second chance?
Sure. He's new. I don't think I'll have any objection. Commissioners?
Yeah, go ahead. I mean,
Okay,
he knows.
go ahead. State your motion.
Oh, I'd like to move to remove number 2, Mr. Demetrius Norman, from consideration.
Second.
Okay, that was second by Commissioner Ken Epperson. Now, you've already spoken on your motion. If you had anything else you would like to add at this time?
No, thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, sir. Okay, so we have a motion on the floor. It's been moved by Commissioner John Paul Young and second by Commissioner Ken Epperson to remove Mr. Demetrius Norman's name from the appointment of the IDB. And he's already spoke on it. Commissioner Lyndon B. Johnson.
Yes, 2 things I wanna, one thing I wanna ask. is that Miss Ernestine Smith, she has certifications, but it's not a resume. So are we gonna get a resume between now and Thursday, or?
Madam President, I can address that. You should have,
Yes,
you should have two. There's a resume and a certification sheet. There should be two documents associated
That's what the
with
first one is?
her application
It's not
or
included.
considerations.
I hadn't seen the second one you're talking about. I don't think I've seen is the certification.
It's
So
The
attached.
first one on
That's
the
it right
blue
here.
agenda.
Yeah. It looks like a resume.
Oh, there, yeah.
that's all I've seen is the certification.
I
hadn't
said
seen-
it's
Professional
separate,
It's
it's
two
two
PDFs.
separate two PDFs.
It's
Her
called,
very first one.
There's the first one.
Oh, okay, my bad.
Professional view.
I didn't see, look at all
So
that.
it looked like that because we have 4 applicants and there are 4 documents, so you
Yeah,
didn't
she
recognize
listed first
that
and
she
third.
is
Okay, so we
on
only
there
got,
twice.
so we only have
Three of the four, three.
Right.
So we have 3. Okay.
yeah, 3 now.
Okay, 3 now. All right. So, and then I wanted to speak about adding the person and actually adding a person to any of the boards. I think when you make a motion to add someone, you should pretty much know that person or know of that person, because you know a person can go and professionally get a resume done, but if you don't really know who that person is, then that could be a situation in which a person is added to a board and disrupts the whole board. But I think what Commissioner Atkins said, you know, at this late part of the game of adding a person now really wouldn't be advisable. But you know, maybe next opening and you get a chance to know him, then you know if he's still interested, then bring him back up. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Johnson. Commissioner Roy Burrell.
Madam President, I'm not sure where we are at this time. Are we, are we addressing 3 or 4 persons here, or are we gotten past that? I guess you sort of left me on, we dropped 1 person.
Yes.
We got 3 left.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where we are.
Yes.
Okay.
We're having discussion on item number 11, 7.
I see that.
Okay?
Two motions pending.
Yeah, we got 2
And
motions
that's,
to vote on.
Madam President, and that's for that second position is what we're saying. Have we cleared the other one with Mohammed?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, this is a separate appointment to fill the expired term of Mr. Roger D.K.
Okay. All right, thank you.
You're welcome. Commissioner Stephen Jackson.
I shouldn't be on the board.
Okay. Vice President Chavez, you've already spoken. I'm gonna give, if you would, get back on the board for me.
Sure.
And I'll get Commissioner Ty Hopkins.
I'm a little confused because we're talking about not adding a person where we just added to the MPC earlier. So, as a body, we really shouldn't talk out of both sides of our mouth.
Well,
So, I just remember that. That's all I have, man.
thank you, Commissioner Hopkins. Vice President Chavez.
Thanks, President. We know we got all mixed up, but we're going to be on my substitute vote in a minute on whether or not to add William, because we didn't vote on it. And again, I agree with you. I would love to know this person, but that's the beauty of having the board is we represent the people. They sent an email. They said they'd like to be on the board. I know personally I would have been in front of the board introducing myself to everybody. So I hate that Mr. William could not have been here to speak on his behalf to introduce himself to us. Perhaps if it would have got moved to Thursday, or if it gets moved to Thursday, he can come introduce himself. But yes, I agree with you. We would like to know these people ahead of time. But at the end of the day, I would like to, if somebody wants to serve and they ask to be added, I'm going to add them, but I will have no hard feelings if you guys vote against this. Like I said, this isn't a personal appointment of mine. I was just asked that this citizen be introduced. Thank you, President.
Thank you. Commissioner Johnson, you've spoken.
Yeah.
Hold
I
on.
did. No, it's fine. I put myself back on the board.
You did?
Yeah,
Okay.
you spoke.
You spoke. Get back on the board for me, please.
I
Thank
hadn't
you.
spoken.
Okay.
Commissioner Ken
Call
Epperson.
for the question on the resolution.
And it was called, the question was called by Commissioner Ken Epperson and second by Commissioner Stephen Jackson. Okay. Please vote on calling for the question. And the question has been called. Now at this time, Madam Clerk, if you would read what we are voting on for the commissioners' hearing.
It was moved by Commissioner Young, seconded by Commissioner Epperson to remove Mr. Demetrius Norman from the IDB list of candidates.
Thank you. Please vote. And that passes 12-0.
Now we are voting on the substitute motion by Mr. Chavez, seconded by Mr. Burrell to add Mr. William McCullum
Okay.
to the list.
All right. Please vote.
Mr. Atkins?
So that fails.
6-6.
6-6.
Okay.
Anybody want to reconsider their vote?
That's okay.
Okay. Now,
Now we are voting on authorized appointment to fill the expired term of Mr. Roger Decay on the Industrial Development Board, Mr. Bradford, Ms. Smith, and Ms. Proby Waller.
So move. Oh, we already made the
we
motion,
already
right?
did it.
Okay.
We're just voting on it at this time.
This goes to Thursday.
Yes.
Okay.
That passes 12-0. Next item.
Authorized special resolution of recognition to Mr. Doug Dominic for years of service as Caddo Parish Commissioner.
Move to authorize and
Second.
move to the February 6th regular session.
Okay. That was moved by Commissioner Todd Hopkins, and that was second, I heard it down here, Commissioner Ken Epperson. Commissioner Hopkins, would you like to speak?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Commissioner Lyndon B. Johnson?
I'd like to make a motion to amend that to also include the other commissioners that were turned
Second.
out. Commissioner Jim Smith, and I know I'm gonna hate myself tomorrow, but also Matthew Lynn.
Mr. Bowman.
He wasn't termed, he didn't serve 3 consecutive terms. And I also would like to add Commissioner Ken Epperson because he has served the longest of all commissioners since it's been called a commission.
Okay.
If we're gonna do that as well.
And that was
That's
second
my
by the chair.
motion.
I second it. Vice President Chavez?
Thank you, President. Would you accept a friendly amendment for myself on
I
that?
had to hear what your friendly amendment is first.
It's adding myself, my name as a co-sponsor.
Oh, as a co-sponsor.
Yes.
Oh.
Oh, I'm sorry.
He's the sponsor.
Hopkins, okay.
Commissioner Stephen Jackson?
Yes, I would like to add an amendment to add Commissioner Bowman to that.
Yes,
I think he would
it
appreciate
will
it.
be on there.
I think he would appreciate it.
Yes.
That's a friendly amendment.
If we have to
That's-
vote on it, I'm fine. But I think he would appreciate it. And you'll feel good about the other one.
I'll be feeling good, okay. All right,
All right.
Is that a friend, are you accepting that, or do we have to vote?
He accepts.
that's
Okay.
fine, thank you.
We've already done. All right. Commissioner Lynn Cawthorn, I'm sorry.
Yes,
that's you.
just for, it's not my amendment, but I think, and I don't speak for Commissioner Johnson, but I think what he was trying to accomplish, and maybe Commissioner Hopkins was trying to accomplish, people who had served 3 consecutive terms? Or it doesn't matter to you guys?
It doesn't matter to
Okay,
me. I just
okay.
wanted to recognize Mr. Dominic.
And I felt that the other 2 who had already served at the same time as Commissioner Dominic should also be in that same resolution because they came on at the same time and they went off at the same time. And I also included Commissioner Epperson because, like I said, he has served the longest of all commissioners since it's been called a commission. So
And it's in different
27 years, I
districts.
think. Am I right on
24.
22nd,
22.
22. Give me the 22nd.
Yeah, so 22 years, I mean, that's a spectacular feat.
Hell of a long
2 different districts, so,
Okay, so my comments was just to get clarification.
That's the reason
as to
why.
That's-
Okay.
All right, thank you, Madam President.
Understand.
Thank you, Commissioner Carthorne. Commissioner Jim Talaferro.
Okay, yeah, back to the clarification. So, I'm all for, recognizing anybody's public service. I just want to make sure that we're recognizing the maximum 12 years, or we're recognizing a term as it's ended.
Well, on here, it says for years of service as Caddo Parish Commissioner.
Correct.
So
So whether
there's
it's
no
4,
specific-
there's no specific, okay.
sir.
So we recognize all of the off-going commissioners, correct?
So you won't do that, then that's a whole long list. That's
Well, I just asked
12, 13.
No, I'm not
it's
talking about
not.
the ones that are reelected. I'm just talking about the ones that are they fulfilled their term for 4 years and they're gone.
Trying to make it too
But
complicated.
then you gotta add Middleton and somebody else I missed. Lewis Johnson and somebody else.
And Bowman.
And Bowman.
Okay.
But we
Well,
already added
Bowman
him.
was a friendly amendment already.
Yeah, that's true.
You remember you accepted that.
I'm still on prevailing side. so
Sure,
I-
sure.
Unaccepted.
Agenda item.
Don't. Commissioner Talaferro, did that answer your question, sir?
Not really.
Yeah, I suppose it did. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if we're
We're voting on recognizing commissioners for their years of service as Caddo Parish
okay,
Commissioner.
period.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Todd Hopkins.
Okay, just for clarification, I was just doing because Mr. Dominic served District 1.
Is your
And I wanted to
predecessor.
recognize him. I didn't want to be presumptuous and try to recognize some other people from other districts. That's really up to y'all,
Right.
whoever served in that district, so I left it alone. If you want to add it for 12 years service, I don't have a problem with that. Not one bit.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner. All right, I see no other discussion. If I do, I'm gonna call for the question.
Got one, Madam.
Okay, I'm sorry, I don't see you on the board. Go ahead.
That must not be working.
It's okay, go ahead.
Well, I'm just trying to still get a clarification. I hear somebody say 4 years, then I'm hearing 12 years. What are we doing? I mean, I recognize what you're doing.
Yes, sir.
And I'm understanding that we are adding these others on because of their service. Is that what it is, Madam?
Yes,
Chair?
sir.
And is that what we're supposed to be voting on?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome, sir. I see no other discussion. Please vote.
Voting on my amendment.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chavez,
Okay, and that passes 12-0. Next item.
authorized discussion of start date and pay for commission clerk.
Commissioner Chavez.
Thank you, President. Attorney Frazier, do we have to move this to Thursday to discuss this, or can we discuss this now?
You could, discuss it now, but you can't vote on anything.
Okay. All right.
You gonna start the discussion?
I'll get back on the board to start it.
Okay. Commissioner Lyndon B. Johnson.
Thank you, Madam President. I don't think that we should discuss it until we get the opinion back, and that opinion comes back from our parish attorney, which is the next item on the agenda. I think the discussion will be premature until that particular letter is written and given to the ethics board for them to make the determination.
See, Commissioner Johnson.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Vice President Chavez, I'm gonna put you back on the board in a second. Commissioner Atkins, our board is acting up a little bit. Commissioner John Atkins, it says Commissioner Everson, but I saw you on the board.
Okay, thank you. I don't know where I went. I guess it's thank you for recognizing me. I don't think that we want to get into this in this horseshoe. I think this is better discussed with the personnel committee and the leadership of the commission at the time. It's a sensitive employee issue. You know, I mean, there's nothing scandalous involved. It's just a compensation issue, and those should be handled kind of in a more intimate environment, I think, than out here in the horseshoe. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Commissioner Atkins. Commissioner Ken Everson.
I'd like to make a motion that this particular item be postponed until such time that we have received an Attorney General's opinion from the Ethics Board opinion, which I think the Ethics Board meets on February the 7th. Then at that time, it will go toward the appropriate committee. Second.
Okay, that was moved by Commissioner Ken Everson, and that was seconded by Commissioner John Atkins. Commissioner Everson, would you like to add anything else to your motion?
No, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Stephen Jackson.
No, that was gonna be my motion.
Okay. Vice President Chavez.
Thank you, President. I'm going to support Commissioner Epperson's motion. I wanted to add this because I know we had requested the pay and the start date, and I know we appreciate Mr. Everson for working already for free for the parish, and he's doing a good job and he's training. And as soon as we get this, well, he's learning.
That's an internship.
Right. Anyways, we want to get them as long as it's a favorable opinion, get them started as soon as possible. So I just wanted to get the wheels moving. So I'll be supporting Commissioner Epperson's motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice President Chavez. I see no further discussion. At this time, we're voting on Commissioner Ken Epperson's motion to remove this item until all verification is assumed from the Ethics Board.
And sent to committee, right?
And
And sent to committee.
Madam Clerk, you want to
She got it.
read it and make sure everyone is clear?
Postpone this
Yeah, he did.
discussion until the ethics opinion, and then remain it to the appropriate committee.
Okay.
I think it's right to get rid of it.
Right.
Okay, that passes 12-0. Next item.
Authorize the parish attorney to request an ethics opinion regarding Jeff Everson's employment as Caddo
Move to
Parish
advance.
Commission clerk.
Okay, that was moved by Commissioner, did I get a second?
Second.
Thank you. I was gonna say the chair second. That was moved by Commissioner Lyndon B. Johnson, and that was seconded by Commissioner Lynn Carthorne. Commissioner Johnson, would you like to speak on your motion?
I'll wait.
Okay. Vice President Chavez.
Thank you, President. Attorney Frazier, I know you had mentioned that there was no point for us to send this to the Ethics Board because an ethics opinion had already been requested. Is that correct? I guess I'm trying to get your opinion. Should we pass this since there's already one in the process of being achieved? What's your
Commissioner Chavez,
recommendation?
I don't have an opinion. I just do what I'm asked to do. So whatever you all decide to vote to ask me to do or do not ask me to do will be what we will do.
I guess the question would be then, is the ethics request that was already sent in going to yield the same results of more labor from our staff on a duplicate request?
Honestly, because I'm not making the call on the ethics side, I can't tell you that you are going to get the same result or a different result. I have no idea of that.
Okay. Thank you, President.
Yes, sir. Commissioner Ty Hopkins.
Ms. Frazier, I guess what I'm wanting to know is, will this opinion go in along with the one that has already been transmitted, or will it go to the next board meeting?
We can request that it go in, I guess if something is done expeditiously at the same time, but that would also be the ethics board's decision. That wouldn't necessarily happen just because it's requested.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Lyndon B. Johnson.
Thank you, Madam President. I actually had this on our last regular session agenda, but due to one person voting no, it failed. I had been talking about this even before that meeting, and that's when the attorney told me that I had to put it on the agenda so that it would be a formal request on the agenda and we vote on it. The reason I feel that we should have this is because our parish attorney represents us when there's a legal issue. And this is a issue that could be there, could not be there. But we need to make sure that we know that it's there or not. If an individual writes a letter to request something, even in the letter that I saw, it basically said that they don't see that where there is a issue. Well, that's already biased, in my opinion. Am I right or wrong? I'm right, thank you. So what we should do is have an unbiased letter sent on behalf of the parish to determine if this is an issue or not. And so that's all I'm requesting. If it had been put in at the right time, it could have been put in in the February meeting, because we would have had time to get it put in. But since that was a no vote, now I'm putting it on this agenda so that we can vote on it Thursday and then be sent down as soon as possible. That's it, Madam President.
Commissioner Johnson, I think the resolution that you're talking about, or the request that you're talking about, was done as agenda addition?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Because I was told it had to be, it couldn't be a request from a commission, it had to be voted upon.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Stephen Jackson.
Attorney Frazier, have you seen the letter that has been already submitted?
Yes.
And so would your letter, or not your letter since you don't have an opinion, would the letter that, or whatever correspondence, assuming this may pass or not, with whatever correspondence sent on behalf of this body, would the contents be any different? Help me out there.
Commissioner, basically the contents would state the following items: that you all have appointed Mr. Everson as clerk, that his spouse works for an agency that we have, that the commission has given grant funds in the past, and she is the director of that agency. There is no current contract, however, that agency was included in your budget. And whether or not there is a conflict of interest, if he accepts the position, if the agency, or if we enter into a contract with the agency.
Would the contract be with the commission, or would it be with the parish of Caddo?
It's with the parish of Caddo.
And not the commission?
Correct.
Okay, and I'm just, so in your, I guess, I hope I'm not asking for legal advice, but let me know if I am. But with your letter, what you just said, does that differ for the letter that has already gone in?
Commissioner, I don't recall it to that level of specificity.
Or has something been left out?
I don't recall any of that being left out of the letter. I will hope that you all have reviewed that letter that was sent, so that you all can make a decision as far as what you vote, because it is your decision, not mine.
Well, what I'm gonna ask is, I'm gonna be okay with advancing this to Thursday, but could you give us a copy of the letter that you would write prior to final adoption on Thursday? Is that possible?
Sure.
Okay. I mean, I just think it's fair. I have that letter, I've reviewed that letter, and I'd like to just compare and contrast, because if there's not much difference, I'm fine with approving it. Thank you. So Thursday is good?
Sure.
Thank you, Madam Attorney, thank you, Madam President.
Commissioner Ken Epperson.
I'm going to support this measure. I just think we shouldn't give even the impression of possibly any impropriety. However, this really, I think, goes back to the interview process. Things of this nature should have been vetted during the interview process. And I think it's appropriate that this letter regarding that personnel situation should come from legal. So I'll be supporting this. I don't think there's nothing wrong with it. And however legal crafts it, I'm good with that. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Roy Burrell.
Madam President, for those of us that are new, I don't know about the others, I haven't seen any letters. I know that some of this was done before we got on here, but now that we are here, then I would like to review it at
Yes, sir.
least. The second thing is a question of whether or not the letter that the attorney is supposed to send that will be approved by us on Thursday. Am I understanding that correctly?
Viewed by us.
Viewed by us on
Yes, sir.
Thursday and voted on then,
Yes, sir.
too? The
You-
second question is,
Well, let me stop you right there, because we won't be voting on approving the letter. We'll vote to authorize this request from Commissioner Johnson for our parish attorney to request an ethics opinion regarding Jeff Everson's employment as Caddo Parish Commission Clerk. That's what we'll be voting on Thursday. If this passes today, passes to Thursday, and we'll vote on it at
but
our
we'll
regular
have a
session.
copy of the letter that she's gonna send.
Yes.
By Thursday.
And we'll make a request right now for you, new commissioners, to receive the letter that has already been sent for an ethics opinion.
Okay,
So
so
you'll
if we,
receive it.
say if we wind up approving it on Thursday, then will this push the decision from the Ethics Board beyond the February 7th meeting?
No, sir.
Thank you, Madam
It would-
President.
Okay. Attorney Frazier?
It would not hinder them, I don't guess, if they so desired to make a ruling on the, at their February 7th meeting. However, as I explained in response to an earlier question, they may not consider both of them at the same time. If they get this one, they could consider both of them at a later meeting as well. So there's no guarantee when you're going to get an answer back to both or to the issue.
Or to
Question.
either at this point?
Yeah,
Question.
either or you can get an answer to both at the same time. You can get an answer to one at one time and an answer to the other one at the other time.
Okay.
That's totally within their discretion.
Madam President,
Thank you for stating that point, Attorney Frazier. Commissioner Burrell?
let me be clear. They're gonna meet on the 7th of February, right, to do their business?
Correct.
Okay, wouldn't the letter that we send, whether it's from you or the other one, be in by a certain date in order for them to consider? Well, I know that's normally the way they work.
The February date has passed. The deadline for submitting items for the March agenda is January the 23rd, which I believe is Thursday. So it
Okay,
would
so
have
we
to
can
be-
assume at this point then that it won't be considered until March unless they make an exception.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Lyndon B. Johnson?
Yes, I want to get point of clarification of a question that was asked to the attorney. So I heard Commissioner Jackson ask that the contract is it with the Parish of Caddo or with the commission? And the contract should be with the commission because you said the Parish of Caddo.
Contracts are made with the Parish of Caddo Commissioner. You all don't have the power to.
Not us as a body, but the Parish of Caddo, when you're referring to the Parish of Caddo, is coming from the Caddo Parish Commission budget. It's within this
The
book.
commission makes the decision on the budget. That is correct. And the contract is with the Parish of Caddo as authorized by the budget approved by the commission.
Thank you. Okay. I just want to make that point of clarification that the Parish of Caddo and the funding comes from the commission itself and not one of the other parish entities. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner, for stating your point. Vice President Chavez?
Thank you. Thank you, President. Attorney Frazier, if we were to, because I think you stated we do not currently have a contract with Robinson Rescue, is that right?
Correct.
So if we hired Mr. Everson, is the ethics question, can we hire him, or if we hire him, can we not then give them an NGO funding?
I think the ethics question needs to be clarified as to whether you have to make a choice of one or the other, or whether you can do both. At this point, you put them in the budget, and if you withdrew their funding, I'm sure there would be some questions. And if there is a conflict, Mr. Everson might have a decision to make. So I think all of those questions come into play.
I guess the reason I'm asking is, Mr. Everson wasn't here last year when we, the commission, made
No.
that budget. But you're saying that, so obviously he had no influence there. If we were to hire him, and we did via a vote, and then the ethics board said we cannot fund Robinson Rescue anymore because he works here, well, he's not doing anything unethical. It's just the ethics telling us that we cannot fund Robinson Rescue anymore. Am I correct?
Well, commissioners, at that point, you would have to make a decision because one may cancel out the other. It may be that you cannot do both, so you have to choose which one you're going to do if you get an opinion that does not explicitly allow you to hire him and fund Robinson's Rescue.
So ultimately, we need a clerk. I mean, and I love Robinson Rescue, they help us out a lot, but ultimately, we do need a clerk. I mean, we need to hire somebody. So, you know, the ethics of us waiting for an opinion, if we're gonna fund an NGO and we don't even have the staff support that we need, I think we should look at it in its entirety of our organization. And then after we fulfill the spot that we need and our staff, then we can look at what is our core responsibility, and it is animal services, and it is spay and neutering. So if we ethically cannot fund Robinson Rescue and they come back with an unfavorable ethics opinion that states that, then possibly we can use that money to hire an in-house veterinarian to do spay and neuters in the parish to accomplish the end result of what we need to do anyway, which is reduce the amount of animals on the streets and increase the
Point of
Vice
order,
President, thank you.
Madam President.
Because this
I
is not-
appreciate the
Yes.
Vice President, but
Yes.
we gotta state your main.
Yes,
Okay.
thank you, and
I was
so,
about to say,
and what I'm
that's
about
so
to say.
far above my pay grade
Yes.
at this point, because those are decisions that you all have been elected to make. So what will happen is when we get a decision, depending on how it comes back, I will tell you the legal ramifications of the choices you can make, and then you all will make your choices.
I guess, and just for clarification, guys, I'll wrap this up really quickly. Are we asking the ethics board if Jeff can work here, or if we can fund Robinson Rescue while he works here?
You're asking,
You're asking
A
the
little
same
bit of both.
question, Vice President Chavez.
you're asking it a
And
different way every time, but both of
It's not
those
germane.
issues are gonna have to be considered.
Okay.
Those are both gonna have to be considered.
I know Commissioner Burrell asked for that letter. I'd like to see it too, the one you guys plan on sending.
Everybody
Okay.
will see it.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Vice President Chavez. And I just want to say that we do have a clerk right now, a deputy clerk that is doing well. So I don't want the citizens of Caddo Parish to think that we don't have anyone doing or handling the business of the Caddo Parish Commission, because it's being handled well by Deputy Clerk
You're right about
Michelle
that.
Nations.
You're right.
Thank you. Commissioner Lynn Carthorne.
Call for the question.
Amen. Second.
The question has been called by Commissioner Lynn Carthorne and second by Commissioner Ken Everson. Please vote on calling for the question. And that passes 12-0. Now, Deputy Clerk, Ms. Michelle Nations, would you please let us know what we're about to vote on right now?
Authorize the parish attorney to request an ethics opinion regarding Jeff Everson's employment as Caddo Parish Commission Clerk.
Okay. Please vote.
Just to be clear, we're voting on moving that to Thursday.
Yes. And that passes 11-1. Next item.
Communiques and committee reports.
Okay. I see you pushing the button, but you're not on the board, so just go ahead.
No, I'm
Commissioner
not.
Stephen Jackson.
I'm not used to
There you are.
this left side of the thing. Attorney Frazier, I just want to, I recall reading at some point where y'all had at one point argued, is the commission's president signing the contract with the NGOs? Because there's some conversation that we have had
No.
that I'm
Dr.
trying to get
Wilson
clear.
signs all contracts.
On behalf of
Caddo Parish.
Caddo Parish, does the clerk sign contracts?
No.
Because at some point, I do recall there being a distinguishment between the parish of Caddo when we entered into contractual agreements. Is that correct? There's a distinction between the administrator as well as and so the contract that those NGOs have, and this is separate side, I'm just trying to get clarification for myself. The contract they have is with the parish of Caddo, although it's commission approved.
Right,
it's-
because you all have two different branches of government,
Okay.
an executive and a legislative branch.
Okay.
The budget, is approved via legislation, but the
Okay.
executive, the carrying out of everything is done through the
Execution.
administration.
Okay, I
Execution. That's
want
it.
some clarification for myself. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I want to, I don't know if Patrick is here, but Dr. Wilson, if you would, please send him my thanks, and I believe the folks at Centenary College will send a letter or send a note. Clay Walker was there yesterday as well. We had a great turnout for our MLK Day of Service, where students at Centenary as well as members of the community came out in support of Dr. King's legacy. I do agree that every day that we wake up with breath in our body is a day to serve, and so we ought not over exaggerate service on that particular day, and we ought to make sure that we are in the mode of service every day. So I want to thank Patrick for going above and beyond. Caddo Parish was able to support lunch through our Safe Summer initiative at a very small cost. Provided lunch to those students who are out working. Also want to announce that we'll be doing our Black History film series again this year in conjunction with Robinson Film Center. And so that more information will be coming on that. I'll get with you and Valerie, but more information to come on that. This is an opportunity. I think they're going to focus on African American music this year, and there's also a focus on Sam Cooke, who has a local store here, and there's also an opportunity to talk about domestic violence as well. So Megan and her staff have gone above and beyond. We'll be working with the NAACP as well as the African American Chamber in conjunction with that. Dr. Wilson, thank you for your attention to the Reinvest Caddo page, and thank you to Jimmy for getting that up and running. I want to iterate and announce that on February 25th, we will have a public meeting. At the moment, that meeting is currently set for to take place at 5:30, and it will be held right now, unless there's a change, at the Shreve Memorial Library in the meeting room that they have downstairs. I had asked Dr. Wilson if the property division can be available, as well as legal could be available to make presentation and answer questions. If we could also get PR to start to come up with a marketing plan for that. I do want to just acknowledge and say to everyone that I was not here for the swearing in. I believe I tried to communicate that as best as possible to everybody. Things are just a little different, and so I took a little different approach. Attorney Frazier did make sure I made that official act today, and that stuff is down at the Secretary of State's office, and so just want to thank you for your patience and understanding, most importantly, understanding on that. But I will just say to the new members that I just want to encourage you that my phone line is always open, my emails are always open. I don't eat much, so if you want to go sit down for lunch, a sandwich is all I need, and I pay for it myself. So make sure that you communicate throughout this term, because one thing that we shouldn't do is sit down here and make decisions without communicating. You can rest assured that if you place something on the agenda that I have a question about, I'm going to call you and ask you about it, but I'm going to find a way to try to support it. And I would just ask that you do the same in return. And I would just encourage you to remember that this process is circular and not linear. And so the same understanding that you will want for something that you have on the agenda, everybody else wants for what they have on the agenda. And so if I could just offer that nugget of advice, take it from how you want to use it. But I just think that we do good work down here, and it starts with communication. So I look forward to working with everybody over the next 4 years, and glad to have some folks on so I don't have to do as much talking. Thank you, Mr. Acting President.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Johnson?
Thank you, acting president at the time. Dr. Wilson, did we fill out that application for NACO for the community garden award? No, the NACO award?
For achievement?
Achievement award, yes.
No, so we couldn't this year. Let's
Okay.
not do it till April.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, in 2020.
Right.
Yes.
Okay, I just want to make sure
Yeah,
it's still on
fine.
radar and not, it's not falling off nobody's radar.
Yeah.
Because I think that's an effort that we're doing that's worthwhile.
Yeah.
Okay. And then, have y'all received any letters of recommendation or resolutions from anyone about the Police Jury Association executive boards?
Not yet.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Somebody in the conference room.
No, I haven't.
Okay, thank you.
Might want
So I'll make sure that they get forwarded to you.
Might want to check with Michelle.
I forwarded one to all the commissioners. I don't remember his name, but there's also a hard copy in the commissioners' lounge room
Okay,
on the table.
all right. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Johnson. Commissioner Epperson.
Dr. Wilson, do you recall whether our our application for employment forms may have a statement? I know sometimes they have nepotism, right? Ask if you have a member that's working at the, that works for the Caddo Parish Commission. I was wondering if we may look at, as we interview in the future, maybe looking at a clause as to, do you have an individual or a family member that's engaged in a contract or doing business? See what I mean? So we won't have to go through this. And for the new commissioners that have not taken the ethics training, you will see why we are making this, because you'll be surprised at the things that you think may not seem relevant, but they are. And it will be highly embarrassing. I think it would be a strike against us if we would get somebody in, have them work 3 or 4 months, and then boom, have to lay them off because of that. Too many articulate and professional people here for that to go on. So I would hope that we would look at that particular situation for the future. Also, I'd like to let you know that I will be becoming a member of the executive board of the Police Jury Association, member at large. I've served on all levels for the last 21 years, Police Jury Association. Very familiar with lobbying in Washington, D.C., Baton Rouge State Legislature, Congress, interacting with all other 63 parishes within the state of Louisiana, and made a lot of good suggestions that they have implemented on the Police Jury Association to make our organization even more viable. So I'll be asking for your support relative to that. Thank you.
Well said on ethics. Thank you, Commissioner Epperson. Attorney Frazier.
I just wanted to remind you all that per the bylaws and charter, your officer elections for commission officers will take place Thursday, at Thursday's meeting.
Thank you, Attorney Frazier. Do we have any other commissioners under communiques? We have citizens' late comments. I have Ms. Jan Tarp.
It's Jane Tappy.
Jane Tappy.
Hi there.
Hello.
Want to welcome, thank you, Madam President. You've changed already in the last few minutes. Welcome to all the new commissioners. I want you guys to know that we are here. Personally, I want to work with you guys, every one of you, not against you. So I just want y'all to know that personally, because maybe you weren't sitting there last month, but you are this month. So welcome. Okay. I won't take long. My first question, and Commissioner Jackson left, I'm kind of confused when Mr. Jackson says that you have no control over, what we're talking about in our issues with the UDC and all, yet we keep having conversations with Mr. Clark and with you guys as commissioners. Why do we keep hearing from Mr., and I really wish he hadn't left, Mr. Jackson, that we have no control? If we have no control, this would not be being spoken about. So I'm confused about that. And I know you each have a rebuttal and you have a response and you have your own opinions about this, but if we have no control about it, why are we wasting our time? So I'm kind of confused why Mr. Jackson thinks like that. So should I stop there and get an answer, or should I just keep going?
Ms. Jackson already left, so keep going, and what we can do
Okay,
is we can
all
address
right,
the question.
okay, I will. Thank you, Mr. Clark, are you still here? Thank you for even using the word repeal a while ago. I want to get up and cheer for that. I know we're still way in the midst of all of this, but thank you, Mr. Clark, for listening to us, and just using that word is encouraging, because that's our goal. All right, I wanted to verify a statement also that Mr. Clark had made to you guys about the 5 meetings that were made, and I tried to look them up and jot them down real quick. Could I ask you guys as commissioners, can you verify, were they in the city or were they in the UDC zoning concerns? You know, I don't recognize, but maybe one of them as being actually in the UDC zoning. Mr. Clark, you would probably know that answer, because if we do those meetings in the city, that's the problem. We're not addressing those in the parish.
Mr. Clark, after this meeting, would you hang tight for a minute and we'll talk to her? Okay, we'll address
Okay.
that after this meeting.
Okay, and then also, can we have a quick conversation or response to, as Mr. Clark brought up, that we want to get this information out to the people? How are we going to do that? Because last time we did it in the newspaper, that didn't work. Okay, so that would be a really big concern, and I know, and I'm speaking to you guys, but I'm really, because of Mr. Clark's questions that were brought up, is why I'm asking that. And lastly, Mr. Johnson mentioned a while ago, and I don't want anybody to think it's kind of like a misnomer that our only concern was the recreational vehicle approach. No, that just brought our attention to everything. Because, I mean, the list is 300 pages long of what we have a problem with. And it's not just the recreational vehicles, it's the driveways and the fencing and the lighting and the chickens and the roosters and the mobile home foundations. It is a long list. So I do hope that y'all would kind of put that out of, that is not our concern.
I believe the entire commission knows that. I just know that the RV was the catalyst for this entire
Catalyst is the right word.
organized movement. So we'll address that, you, myself, and Mr. Clark, right after this meeting.
Okay. Very good. So it was really brief today. I'm glad I was here, and I'm glad I got to meet all you, or see all you new guys here. We really do want to, I'm not speaking, I am not on the board of the Caddo Alliance. I am way behind them, but I'm not on the board, so I'm not speaking for them. I'm speaking for me, but hopefully for them also. So thank you.
Thank you for coming down.
Thank you.
ma'am.
All right.
Now we have consent agenda.
Move to adjourn.
Second.